know him as a very humble, very proud, very powerful character. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Drew Manning.
Thank you. Yep. Test. Hello. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear me all the way back there? All right. First of all, respect to all of you for coming here early on a Saturday morning. Who stayed out way too late last night? No one? Oh, only a few of you? Okay. Thank you for coming to this speech so early on a Saturday morning. Really appreciate it. Super excited to be here. First of all, by raise of hands, how many of you followed me on my journey from fit to fat to fit back in 2011, 2012? Okay. Small amount of you, which is awesome. You guys can take a nap. You guys already know the story. Everyone else, you're in for a treat. So I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about what fit to fat to fit is, for those that don't know, why I did it, what I learned from it, and what you can learn from it, because this whole talk for me is to talk about the mental and emotional side of fitness, because you could come to a conference like this and gain all the knowledge, learn all the science in the world about the ketogenic diet, but none of that matters if you don't know how to overcome your own mental and emotional challenges to make this a true lifestyle change. So it doesn't matter how much you know, in my opinion. There's a quote that I live by. It says, "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care." And that's what Fit to Fat to Fit is all about, and that's what this Fit to Fat to Fit movement is all about as well. So I'm going to start here from the beginning, but a lot of people confuse me with this guy, so please don't confuse me with Ben Stiller or ask me to do Zoolander or Blue Steel or call me Fokker. I get it all the time. You can see a slight resemblance, right? You got to burn it to earn it. All right, let's start off with this picture. So back on May 7th, 2011, that was the first day I decided to start my fit to fat journey. But let me tell you a little bit about this guy. So back then, for most of my life, I was in shape. I grew up in a family of 11 brothers and sisters. We all played sports. I played football and wrestling from a very young age, and we were all active. And so for me, I never knew what it was like to be overweight. And for me, it was easy, in a sense, to look this way because I was always this way for the most part. I mean, I wasn't born looking like that. I wasn't born tan and coconut oil on my body and manscaped. But for the most part, I was in shape for most of my life. And I became a trainer in 2009. And very quickly, I knew that there was a disconnect between me and my clients who were mostly overweight, who were trying to get fit. And I would get frustrated with them. You know, why is it so hard for you to just follow the meal plans that I give you in the workouts? It's not that hard. And they would tell me, "Oh, Drew, you know, I was doing really good on the meal plans you gave me, but I gave in, had soda, or man, I went out with some friends and drank too much and ended up eating too much." And I'm like, well, it's not that hard. You just put down the junk food and you just follow the plan, and then boom, you'll be fit in no time. It doesn't seem that hard to me because for me it was easy. And they would tell me, you know, Drew, you don't understand how hard it is because for you it's always been easy. And I kind of took that to heart. As a trainer, and a lot of trainers, sometimes we have an ego. We think we know it all. We're like, but for me, I took that to heart. And I'm like, maybe there's something I need to learn as a trainer to better understand where my clients are coming from. So I'm thinking of these ideas, and for whatever reason, I know it sounds crazy, the idea of getting fat on purpose, I know it sounds ridiculous, sounds crazy. It was like a lightning bolt moment where I felt like I was being called to do this. I even Googled to see if anybody had done it before on purpose, and I decided I was going to get fat on purpose to better understand my clients. And I'll talk about, you know, more about why I did that in a second. But this was me on the very first day I started. This was me 6 months and 75 pounds later. Still sexy, right? I'm just kidding. Obviously, the tanning and the manscaping stopped as well. What's crazy about this picture, you guys, is if you think about it, for 31 years of my life, I was 31 back then, I was healthy, I was fit. It didn't matter how long I had been in shape before. In just 6 months of letting myself go, this is how quickly your body can change. And it was really scary for me. It was scary for a lot of people to see because people will tell me, your genetics won't allow you to get overweight. You know, you're in shape because of your genetics, and there's no way you can even get fat, even if you tried. I obviously, this is not photoshopped, even though on social media people think it's photoshopped. But that was the real deal. That was me. There's a side view. November 5th, 2011 was the day after 6 months of doing this that I started my journey back to fit. But really quick, I want to show you guys a clip from Good Morning America explaining what the journey from fit to fat entailed and what it was about and what the rules were that I was following. So
6 months ago, Drew Manning was a personal trainer with washboard abs. Now, thanks to a steady diet of donuts, corn dogs, this fitness buff has gone from lifting weights to gaining weight, packing on more than 70 pounds on purpose, and what he says is an attempt to help others get in shape. Drew and his lovely wife, Lynn, will join us live in just a moment. They're right over there in the studio. Hi, guys. But first, to look back at Drew's journey from fit to fat. Meet Drew Manning, a self-proclaimed fitness addict who has dedicated his life to working out and eating healthy. So why is this personal trainer almost 80 pounds overweight? This was him back in May.
I've always been the fit guy. So to better understand what some of my clients go through, I decided to let myself go for 6 months. No exercise, unrestricted diet.
25 weeks ago, Drew had a 34.5-inch waist, 17-inch neck, and weighed 193 pounds. Today, he has a 47.5-inch waist, 19-inch neck, and weighs a hefty 269 pounds. With the support of his wife, Lynn, he has documented his weight gain on his website through weekly weigh-ins, photos, blogs, and videos.
this week, corn dogs is what you guys want to see me eat.
In just the first month, Drew gained an astounding 21 pounds.
This right here wasn't there. I wasn't there before.
I just walked up the stairs, so I'm a little bit out of breath.
And as the weeks progressed, the weight took a heavy toll.
It's already really hard, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I doubt, what am I doing? Are you crazy?
It affected all aspects of his health.
My glucose levels were high, my blood pressure was off the charts. So it's getting a little scary.
Everyday tasks became a struggle.
You have these rolls of fat like everywhere, kind of impeding you from, bending over to tie your shoes.
His once Adonis-like figure replaced by a much larger physique.
So that puts me up at like 76 pounds almost, which is unbelievable.
Now begins the real challenge, the journey to reclaiming his former fit self.
All right. Who wants a cheeseburger? Anyone want a cheeseburger? It did look good, though, didn't it? All right. Just without the bun, right? So basically, in a nutshell, just to recap, 6 months, I would stop exercising. I could eat whatever I wanted to. And then in the next 6 months, I would walk the walk, put my money where my mouth is, and show people, hey, this is how you lose the weight. Sounds very simple, right? It was not simple, I'll just say that. But, that was the idea in a nutshell. And then here I was, I had this idea, and boom, I decided to get started with this. I didn't have any, media connections to get on TV. I didn't have any marketing strategy really, other than I started my own YouTube channel, started my own website, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna document as much as possible and put this out there and let people follow along on this journey to see what happens to me during this this time frame. What I wanted to do, though, how many of you have seen the documentary Super Size Me? I think most everyone in here, right? I think most of us know fast food is unhealthy for us. We still eat it from time to time, but we know for the most part it's unhealthy for us. What I wanted to do, though, was focus on everyday American foods that a lot of us grew up with in the 70s and 80s that sometimes we think isn't that unhealthy for us. Those are the foods that I wanted to focus on. Everyday processed American foods, and I'll give you guys a typical day in a second. But you heard me talk about, why I was doing this. One was to gain a better understanding of what it was like to be overweight for the first time in my life. Now, would this give me a complete understanding? I'll be honest, no. Even if I did it for 10 years and kept the weight on and gained 200 pounds, it still wouldn't be the same as someone who grew up their entire life out of shape. And so that wasn't the purpose of the journey, right? But it was for me to gain a better understanding for myself, but then also to inspire people. I know this sounds weird. How could this inspire people? I'll tell you at the end how that came to fruition. So here I am, I have this idea, and I get started with it, and I remember my first meal was trying to eat a dozen donuts, and if you go on YouTube, you can see this first video out there. I failed miserably. I only got through 7, and I was thinking to myself, this is going to be way harder than I ever thought. And so it was. But then, here I was with this idea. I get started. The first month, I'll be honest with you guys, was kind of fun to, I had this sense of freedom to go to the grocery store, skip the produce section, go down the cereal aisle, go down the cookie aisle, the soda aisle, and all the options we have here in America for all these foods. I don't know why we have hundreds of different types of cereals and cookies and sodas that we can choose from, but I'll be honest with you, it was fun. I had this sense of freedom, and I didn't have to go to the gym at all for 6 months. I'm like, this is going to be kind of fun. But really quickly, about a month in, things became way harder than I ever imagined. You heard me talk about it in the video of, bending over and tying my shoes. I've never experienced having to hold my breath to put my shoes on or to clip my toenails. So those things were a surprise for me. Walking up the stairs, I was out of breath. I started snoring about a month in, which affected my sleep, which affected my energy levels, which affected my mood, which affected my personality, which affected my hormones. And I was a totally different person, not just physically, but on the inside as well, doing this journey. And just to give you guys a typical day of what I ate, for breakfast, I had a pretty typical American breakfast. I remember as a kid in the 80s, we had these commercials that showed a typical a standard American breakfast, and it was a bowl of cereal, a piece of toast, and a glass of orange juice. Right? Do you guys remember those commercials? That was like a complete American breakfast. And so I would have cereal for breakfast, usually Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Who here likes Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Seriously, that's probably one of the best foods out there. And it became addictive really quick. So I'd have cereal for breakfast, a tall glass of juice, and then obviously between breakfast and lunch, I would have a snack, and that was usually like a chocolate-covered granola bar with a soda, and my drink of choice was Mountain Dew. For lunch, I would have a couple peanut butter sandwiches on white bread, peanut butter and honey, peanut butter and jelly. And then between lunch and dinner was another snack, and that was usually a bag of chips and another soda. And then for dinner, white pasta marinara sauce, maybe a side of garlic bread. And then, of course, at nighttime, something sweet to snack on, and cookies, ice cream. Sometimes if I was really lazy, I would have another bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And for whatever reason, the Cinnamon Toast Crunch tasted better at nighttime than it did in the morning. And so that was a typical day for me. And you guys wouldn't believe how many hundreds of people that were following me emailed me and said, Drew, you eat exactly the way I eat. Like the foods that you're eating, that's exactly what I'm eating. And a lot of Americans are stuck in this phase of eating these types of foods. Why? Because they're cheap, they're convenient, right? And they taste really, really good. Like I said, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Mountain Dew, I could eat all day long. And, these types of highly processed foods that, for my parents to feed 11 kids, we had to eat those types of foods, peanut butter sandwiches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner sometimes, right? But so many of us are still eating these highly processed foods because they are convenient, and sometimes they're marketed to us as healthy foods, or sometimes it's like all natural or fortified with vitamin A and vitamin D or whole grains, and so the majority of people are like, oh, well, it's pretty healthy for us. And so anyways, those are the types of foods that I ate during this journey, and I was shocked at how quickly the weight piled on, but more so than just the physical changes, because if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see my body transform throughout this journey. The surprising thing was how this affected me mentally and emotionally. So here's the thing. When you grow up your entire life in shape, your identity is based on what your body looks like. And also the opposite of that is true too, right? If you grew up your entire life out of shape, overweight, that kind of becomes your identity, what your body looks like. And so for me, never being overweight, going out in public now, I freaked out. I wanted to go up to strangers and say, hey, I don't really look like this. This is my before picture. Go to this website. This is just an experiment. This isn't me. Like, I didn't feel like this is me. And I just wanted to tell people, like, this is just an experiment. And it was really hard for me. I dealt with lack of self-confidence and self-esteem. I was married at the time, and I would cover up and stepping out of the shower in front of my wife. And, I didn't want her to see me naked. I didn't want to see myself naked. And so it affected me so much more on the mental and emotional level than it did physically. And that's where the greatest lessons were learned for me going through this journey, was on the mental and emotional side. And it clicked for me how much of transformation is mental and emotional, right? So we think it's so much just about the physical side of weight loss. There's so much more to it on the mental and emotional side, and that's where I learned some valuable lessons. I remember one time my daughter, who was 2, wanted to run around the house and play with me, and I was trying to chase her, And I was exhausted from working all day. I had a full-time job in the medical field during this journey, by the way. And so I came home from work trying to chase her. After about a minute, I was out of breath. Chafing became an issue, which is super uncomfortable and I was not prepared for. And I had to tell her, hey, Daddy needs a break. I need to sit down. I need to relax. And she's like, no, come play. She didn't understand, right? And she had, these huge tears coming down her face trying to get me to play with her. And it broke my heart. How many millions of people can't play with their kids or their grandkids, not so much because of their weight, but because of their health. And for me, it broke my heart. And I started to realize how much of this journey is becoming an emotional journey than just a physical one. And so, but that's what my book goes into, those lessons that I learned on the mental and emotional side. I'll get into that in a second. But here I was, my goal was to gain 50 pounds. I ended up gaining 75 pounds, which was way heavier than I thought I would get, and surprised a lot of people as well. The media started to learn about what I was doing. They're like, who's this crazy trainer that's getting fat on purpose? Let's have him on. So I'm going to show you guys a clip from Dr. Oz. And the reason I want to show this clip is because if you followed me on YouTube or my website, you saw the physical changes going on the outside week to week. You could see that transformation. But I want to show people what was happening on the inside. When you live this type of sedentary lifestyle, eating these highly processed foods, what does that do to our insides? And so Dr. Oz, before I play the clip, his producers actually challenged him to do something similar for 30 days. They wanted Dr. Oz to do a mini Fit to Fat and then do an episode on what he experienced. And he talks about it in this clip, but he refused to do it. And then he heard about this guy that was doing it for 6 months. He's like, hey, let's let him be the guinea pig. Let's bring him on the show. And, we'll do an experiment on him. And so anyways, let's roll this clip.
All right. Listen, I want everyone out there to understand what really happens when you eat a diet like this.
Yep.
We don't have your starting blood tests. You didn't have statistics done at that time. So, we're going to assume you were pretty healthy because you look like you did when you first started this all. So, hop up. We're going to look at this. I got some organs for you.
Sure.
And I think this will bring it clear. And we started you at 193 pounds. Is that right?
Yep.
That's the first measurement you made about 6 months ago.
Correct.
Right, and that's your body mass index calculation, therefore, is 24.8, which is normal. And for guys muscular as you are, you didn't have any excess fat on you.
Yeah.
So go ahead and put these gloves on. I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to give you your vitals today.
Okay.
So your body mass index now is 34.
Really? 34 from 24.8?
Yes. You're obese.
Wow.
Not overweight, obese.
Okay.
And at risk for major complications.
Okay.
So I'm going to walk you through what those complications are.
Okay.
Liver function. The normal numbers we look for liver function tests is an enzyme value less than 40. Okay? A month ago, yours was 66. That means your liver has been beaten up so much by the standard American diet, the SAD diet, that it has actually been tortured in the submission and now is suffering. It's inflamed.
Okay.
And almost certainly has fatty infiltrates. Let me show you what that looks like on the inside. This is what your liver normally looks like. It's your largest organ. So if I were to cut it through here like this and give you little slices of it, this is what it looked like 6 months ago.
Okay.
This is what it looked like
It is now?
in the last month.
Really?
Excessive amounts of fat stored in there. Well, you're heading towards cirrhosis if these numbers stay that way.
Well,
Now, the good news is you still have the opportunity to turn that back around. And then something else, we have some numbers on your kidney function from a month ago.
Okay.
And there's a number we use to figure out how well the kidney's filtering fluids. You want that number to be a big number?
Yeah.
All right. Your GFR, which is the number we use, is normally above 80.
Okay.
Today it's 72. But it's, it's been hurt. And here's again, the kidney normally looks like this. It's just plump, almost, I call it voluptuous. You may have a different term for it, but it's just full, it's robust. It looks like it could filter. Let me show you what happens to the kidneys after high blood pressure, scarring, and obesity.
Really?
So here's the aorta, right? You see the inside's gotten diseased like this? You see the plaque in there?
Yeah.
And these plaques go into the kidneys and they kill the kidneys.
That's scary.
It is scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what you've done for 6 months, and this is why I was so fearful of doing it. I mean, I don't remember having a fight this big a fight anyway with my staff.
Yeah.
I didn't think I could do this show if I did what you were doing.
Yeah.
And after seeing you, I'm concerned. And with Lynn's testimonial over there, I'm really concerned about what happened.
Yeah.
So this is bad stuff. And I must say, I commend you. You risked your life to make the point. But the question is, what else have you learned about yourself, about this diet, about what you want to share? Now you've been where your clients have been. What do you want to share with them?
All right, I'll share what I learned at the end. But the reason I want to show this clip was because so many of us focus on the outward appearance during our transformation. You know, how much weight am I going to gain? How much weight am I going to lose? You know, if I eat this cheeseburger with fries and a soda, I'll gain weight. If I eat this salad and water, I'll lose weight. But what we forget to look at is how this food affects us on the inside, how it affects us from a medical perspective. And I think a lot of us overlook that. I think a lot of you here, though, you know, are very well educated and have that knowledge, and you understand how this food affects you at the cellular level. But the majority of Americans look at food as weight gain or weight loss. And so I wanted to show this clip because we don't realize, you know, if we eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch, for example, it's not like all of a sudden our liver hurts or our kidney hurts, right? We don't feel it instantly in our bodies. It sneaks up on you over time, right? And that's what's scary about this is you don't realize it until sometimes something hits you. You have a medical issue and you go to the doctor and you're like, boom, okay, type 2 diabetes, you got to make some changes. But if you would have made those changes beforehand, you could have prevented it. And so sometimes we overlook that part of transformation. We just look at how is this going to affect my physical appearance, right? Is this going to help me lose body fat? Is this going to help me look skinny? And we overlook what this food does to the insides of our body. And so that's why I wanted to show this. You know, you can see the difference between the liver and the kidneys. And sometimes I wish it was instantaneous, right? We eat these processed foods and it hurts instantly, but that's not the way it happens. And so it was very eye-opening for me and for a lot of people to see, you know, how quickly your body can change. And this was just 6 months. Imagine if I was living this way for 6 years or 6 decades, eating these types of foods, what that does to the insides of our body. And it's really scary. I'm not saying you can't ever have those foods again, but just to be aware of what you're putting inside your body and how it affects your insides more so than your outsides. So here I was on the Dr. Oz show, 75 pounds overweight. This was a few days before I was going to make the transition back to fit. And I'll be honest with you guys, I was scared. I had doubts because I've never been overweight. And I'm like, okay, I hope this works. I have all these people following me. I hope I can get back to fit. But I really had my doubts. I'm like, I've never had to lose this much weight before. But the thing that kept me motivated was knowing that there was people that were going to do this journey with me. So what I did is I put all this was on my website. People could follow everything I did every single day for 6 months to see what I was doing, because I didn't want it to be a secret. Like, oh, what's Drew doing that's helping him get back to fit? I wanted to put it out there so everyone could see exactly what I was doing every single day so that people could join me. So I wanted, I had 75 pounds to lose. People had weight to lose. I'm like, let's just do this together. And you can see what I do every single day. And so what I did, actually, the first 30 days, you guys, I skipped exercise completely. I didn't do any exercise the first 30 days. All I did was change my diet. So I went from 5,000 calories of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, white bread, Mountain Dew, to about 2,000 calories of real whole food. And those first 30 days, I lost 19 pounds. All my blood work went back to normal levels. Just to give you some numbers, my blood pressure was 167 over 113. And everything else was in the red. My testosterone was in the low 200s, which if you're a 30-year-old male, it sucks to have low testosterone. But that's another thing we don't realize is how food affects us on the hormonal level. And so I was feeling pretty miserable around this time. But yes, in 30 days, no exercise, just changing my food, I wanted to show people the power of nutrition, and that was great. I lost a little bit of weight. I was feeling better already. But I'll be honest with you guys, the first 2 weeks sucked really bad. Because here's the thing, I went from eating these highly processed foods to all of a sudden the next day eating spinach and broccoli and kale and chicken breast, and that's cool, but I felt miserable. And here I was, a proponent of health, trying to tell people, oh, living healthy is fun, the food tastes good, you feel great. No, it sucked. I've never felt worse in my life. I was going through these withdrawal symptoms that I had no idea I would go through. And that's where it clicked when I realized my clients had been telling me this when I would give them a meal plan and say, hey, you got to eat real food now, even though you've been eating this junk food for your whole life, and they couldn't stick with it. And for me, some of that had only been living this way for 6 months to feel these withdrawal symptoms where I had headaches, I was grumpy, I was moody, and I felt miserable, and I could start to empathize with my clients and people that struggle with transformation because I realized how powerful the emotional connection to food really is. For me, before, I'm like, look, it's just a lack of willpower, push your way through it, stop eating the junk food, put down the soda, and you just do it. It's not that hard. And then here I was, a personal trainer, a proponent of health and fitness, and here I was struggling with those withdrawal symptoms. It was as if I was trying to get off of a drug. And that's where it clicked. I realized how powerful that emotional connection to food really is, and it helped me empathize with people that are trying to make that transformation, because this stuff is thrown in their face all the time. And I know it's different than drug addiction, but imagine if a drug addict had to go to Walmart and at the checkout aisle and on TV there's commercials of their favorite drug right in their face every single day. And that's the battle that some people have to face that are food addicts. And for me, it was really humbling and eye-opening, and I realized just how wrong I was when it came to the emotional side of transformation. And it was very humbling. But I will say this, after about 2 weeks of hell, it did become more manageable. The cravings were still there. The cravings still are there. Every time I walk down the grocery store aisle and there's Cinnamon Toast Crunch right there, I still, miss that relationship. It still calls out to me. But it's more manageable than what it used to be. So after the 30 days of no exercise, I did have to go back to the gym, you guys, and this was another humbling part of this journey. I had to go back to the gym. I was still 50 pounds overweight. I looked a little bit better, but I was still overweight. And I was freaking out because the gym is a different beast than just public. I had to go back in, and I didn't know if people knew what I was doing. And here's the thing, whether people judge you or not, you feel judged. And even me, I experienced this. And I remember clients telling me, I don't like going to the gym. I don't like the way people look at me, or, the way I feel. People are judging me. And I'm like, that's just an excuse. Like, no one's judging you. And whether people are judging you or not, you don't really know, but you feel judged inside your head. And for me, I experienced that as well. But for me, knowing that there were thousands of people that were doing this journey with me, I knew that I couldn't let them down. And that's what kept me accountable and motivated, because I'm like, if these people can do it, I can do this too, because I was the face of this. And I had to walk the walk. I couldn't just stay stuck at fit to fat and be like, you know what, guys, it was too hard. I'm just going to stay in this position the rest of my life. So I had to do it. And but knowing that other people were doing it with me kept me motivated. This is a good friend of mine, Calvin, who is on his journey back to fit. He actually lost 200 pounds back in the day, gained it after some family tragedy, and now he's been doing keto for the past 6 months and is down almost 100 pounds so far. This was his first day, and I'll show you guys his picture later on. But it was interesting how inspiring it was for a lot of people, because here's the thing. I kind of knew I was going to get back to fit. I mean, I had my doubts, but my hope was that I would get back, and I did, which was cool. But that's not what Fit to Fat to Fit is all about. It wasn't about my journey back to fit. It was about those everyday people who, from all over the world, that hadn't been overweight for 6 months, or only 6 months, but who struggled with this their whole life. And they found this journey inspiring enough to join me on that journey back to fit. And that's what Fit to Fat to Fit is all about. Because if you think about it, I was only overweight for 6 months. I had muscle memory. I had the discipline. I had the knowledge. So for me, it wasn't the same as someone who had struggled with transformation their whole life. And that's why I really spotlight these people who hadn't been overweight for just 6 months, but who had been struggling for a long time. And that's what makes it relatable, right? Not everyone's going to be able to relate to me and my story, but I can always point them to Team Drew, these people that really embrace this as a lifestyle change. And for me, that's what Fit to Fat to Fit is all about. By raise of hands, how many of you guys have seen, or how many of you guys know that I have a TV show? Okay, just a few of you. Okay, there's a TV show called Fit to Fat to Fit. I'm going to play a clip in a second, but that's what happened after this. I wrote a book about it. The book got turned into a TV show, and now instead of me doing this, going from Fit to Fat to Fit, because I can only do it one time, you guys. I can't do this every year. We have other trainers that we put through this process on the show. I'm going to show you guys a clip of that. One more? Okay.
The trainers that I've had don't understand what a fat person goes through.
Eat less and work out.
Fitness is a huge part of my life.
Can I put myself in my client's shoes?
My goal is to gain 60 pounds.
And lose it with you.
Oh my God.
It breaks my heart that you're doing that to yourself, because I know what it's like and it sucks.
He's never been fat. He's never had food addictions.
I don't know why this is so hard.
Holy cow!
Now there's somebody with her and can feel her pain.
This is my last hope at changing my life.
Before this journey, I was judgmental. Now Ray is my inspiration.
So here's what we do on the TV show. We take other trainers. Thank you. So here's what we do on the TV show. We take other trainers who were like me, who were kind of self-obsessed, who looked really good, that were judgmental, and we put them through this process. And they think it's going to be easy, right? Yeah, just eat a lot of junk food, gain the weight, and then lose it. Boom, you're done. You watch the TV show, you see how humble these trainers are. They come out of this more empathetic. They have more respect for their clients, and they have a better understanding. Not a complete understanding, but a better understanding. And so that's what this whole Fit to Fat to Fit movement is about, is bridging this gap that exists between skinny, fit people who are, genetically blessed. They work hard to look this way. And then those who struggle with transformation and who are overweight. And there's a lot of judgment and misunderstanding that goes on both sides. And my hope is to help bridge that gap by bringing empathy into this industry, and the health and fitness industry, because I think that's what's lacking. And at the end of the day, thank you. And at the end of the day, this world needs more empathy, in my opinion. And so that's what this is all about, and that's what we're trying to do, and not just give people meal plans and workouts and say, eat less and work out. What's wrong with you? Why can't you do it? So here's the lessons that I learned from this whole journey. Just to recap, the biggest thing was how addictive food really is. Remember, that was a huge eye-opening experience for me to realize that food addiction is real, and that emotional connection to food is so much more powerful than we think. And I think if we're at least more aware of that, then we can empathize with those that truly struggle with this and really help them, because it's an uphill battle. Like I said, there's fast food in our face, there's TV commercials, there's delicious food everywhere you go. People show their love with food. It's part of people's culture sometimes. And so it's hard to say no to these foods when sometimes people make you feel bad. They try and sabotage you or make you feel bad for, why don't you eat this food? It's been in our family for, generations, and we have it every year at this time. Like, why can't you just, indulge a little bit, right? So it's an uphill battle. The second part is how transformation is really mental and emotional. You could give someone the best meal plans, the best workouts, the best trainer, the best fitness equipment. None of that matters unless that person knows how to overcome their own mental and emotional challenges. Yeah, for sure, someone could do a 30-day program, lose some weight, and then gain it back, but how do you make it a lifestyle change? And that happens on the mental and emotional side, and that's where people need the help. It's not just about eating less and working out more. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows, yeah, I know, I get it, I need to do that, but how do I make this into a lifestyle change? I've been, looking at diets as this short-term, depriving myself kind of thing that I do for 30 or 60 days, and then I just go back to my old ways. The transformation really happens on the mental and emotional side. And I think in the fitness industry, we need to talk more about how to help people on that side. Because it's cool to come here and, like I said, learn all the keto knowledge in the world, and that's all great and fantastic. But unless you know how to make this into a lifestyle change, it's just going to be another diet. And that's the problem is making it a lifestyle change and not a diet. But here in America, we're obsessed with this diet mentality of what's the quickest way to lose the most amount of weight in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of effort. Am I right? We want that magic pill. It doesn't exist, unfortunately. And so we really have to help people make this into a lifestyle change. And I wish it was a one-size-fits-all approach. Like, hey, take this pill, and then boom, you'll be skinny and fit the rest of your life. I wish it was that simple. The other thing is that it's not so much about being fat or skinny. Our society places so much value on, what's your body fat percentage, how skinny are you, and we put so much emphasis on our physical appearance, when in reality, there's so much more to us than what our physical body looks like. But we think, oh, I need to look like this Instagram model to be healthy, because that's what I think healthy is supposed to be, when in reality, your version of healthy looks different on your body than my version of healthy on my body. But we start comparing ourselves, and we see these models and these celebrities, and we're like, I just want to look like that because that's what healthy is supposed to be. But if we change our perception and we realize that our version of healthy might be different than someone else's version of healthy, we don't need to put so much emphasis on what other people think of us. But that's the problem, is we care so much about what other people think, and we think, oh, these people are going to look down on me if I don't look a certain way. And so if we can just change our perception of what health and fitness is supposed to be and realize that it's just you versus you, then I think that's where we can make some real impact and some change. And that's why I place so much value on the importance of medical health first, and then letting weight loss or looks be a byproduct of living that healthy lifestyle over time. And that's why I'm a huge proponent of getting your blood work done, to finding out what's optimal for you. Is keto optimal for you? I don't know. And you don't know unless you actually do some blood work and some testing. And it's more so than just weight loss. Any diet you do, you can lose weight on and look skinny on, but just because you're skinny or just because you have a six-pack doesn't mean that you're healthy, right? I know a lot of people who look great on stage, they have a six-pack and they look awesome, but they're dying on the inside. They're literally sacrificing their health to look a certain way, and we think, oh, that's what healthy is, but that's not true. And so anyways, these are the greatest lessons that I learned. Really quick, I want to transition into keto, because I got about 10 minutes. Why? Because I didn't lose the weight doing keto. That was about 7 years ago. Keto wasn't as mainstream as it is today. So really quick about my journey into keto and why I'm a huge proponent of it. About 4 years ago, 4 years ago, I was listening to Dr. Dominic D'Agostino, who we all know and love. He was on the Tim Ferriss podcast, and he was talking about the science behind the ketogenic diet, and I didn't realize there was so much scientific research being done on this ketogenic diet. And so here I am, a self-experimenter, right? I'm like, I got to try this out. And so I decided to do a 60-day experiment, and here's what I loved about what happened to me during those 60 days. I didn't lose any body fat. I didn't lose any weight. My performance in the gym was about the same as it was before. I was doing mostly CrossFit. But the thing that I noticed for me was the improvement in cognitive function and mental clarity was like night and day from before. And I went from eating 6-7 meals a day to eating once or twice a day and feeling optimal. My digestion was better. And for me, that's why I fell in love with the keto diet. Not so much because I lost body fat or I got more ripped or shredded. Yes, that can happen to some people. It can be for fat loss or weight loss. But for me, it was more so nutrition for my brain, and that's why I fell in love with the ketogenic lifestyle and am a huge proponent of it. I wish I had known about keto back when I did Fit to Fat to Fit, but I didn't really know about it. Had I done that, maybe I would have lost the weight quicker or would have felt a lot better, because there were times where I did kind of feel hungry and not as sharp mentally when I was doing my journey. I wasn't starving myself. I was eating 2,000 calories a day, spread out over 5 or 6 meals. But I kind of wish I knew about the keto diet. I definitely won't do this again, though, in case you guys are wondering. Maybe we should do it, but do it with a keto approach. And so what happened, this is actually a funny story, and I don't share this with a lot of people, but I became friends with Dr. Dom, and he was supposed to go on the Dr. Oz show, him and Dr. Josh Axe, and to talk about the benefits of the ketogenic diet. Well, he was going to be on his honeymoon. And so he said, hey, who would be a good replacement for me is Drew Manning. He's been on the Dr. Oz show already, why don't you just get him on? They're like, oh yeah, we've had him on before. So obviously that's not an even comparison. There's Dr. Dom and then there's me, but they're like, yeah, bring Drew on. So I was able to go on the Dr. Oz show, talk about the benefits of the ketogenic diet, and then that's where people started following me and wanting to learn more about the ketogenic diet, and since then have coached tens of thousands of people on the keto diet. And that's the thing, I think a lot of you guys know, is that it's very bio-individual. There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to keto, and that's why I'm a huge proponent of empowering you and other people to become their own self-experimenters, right? That's how you're going to know what's optimal for you, not just listening to me. Thank you. It's not so much about just listening to me or Dr. Oz or other doctors that are telling you, hey, you should be doing this. You don't really know until you become your own self-experimentation and find out what's optimal for you. I tell people all the time, if you're getting your oil change in your car more than you're getting your blood work done, you're probably doing something wrong. And so for you, you kind of have to become a biohacker. You don't have to become extreme at it, but just the basics so that you know what's optimal for you, because I can't tell you what's optimal for you. Yeah, I think keto is great, but I don't know if it's great for you unless you do it. And I think you have to give it at least a consistent effort of a minimum 30 days, to know if it's optimal for you. You can't just do it for 2 days and be like, man, that keto diet sucked. I felt awful, And that goes with any lifestyle change too. It's going to take time for your body to adjust and adapt. But at the end of the day, what I want to say about all of this is that, there's so much more to you. There's so much more to us than our physical appearance. And I want you guys to really take that home. And if you learn nothing else from me, is understanding the mental and emotional side of transformation, having empathy and respect for those that struggle. And for me, that's what my brand is all about, and that's what I'm trying to do in this space. And I think with a keto approach, it can help a lot of people, and that's why I'm a huge fan of it. But I just want to say thank you guys for coming, and I appreciate you guys listening to this talk. And I think we have a few minutes for Q&A if you guys want to do that. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yep, go ahead.
So.
Yep, I can hear you. Yep.
Real quick. The questioners, please make sure you're close to the microphone so that everyone can hear the question. So make sure you're close to the microphone.
All right.
Thank you.
So my struggle has been, I know how to eat and function for weight loss, going from losing 100 pounds to now maintaining for a year and trying to build muscle and trying to get more fitness. How do you deal with that transition? They're two very different things, performance and weight loss. So I don't know, as a trainer, how you handle that.
That's a great question. You have to be open to change. What worked for you before might not work for you today where you're at, right? Your metabolism has changed, your resting metabolic has changed, your body composition has changed. So what's worked for you to get that way probably won't work for what you're doing now. And so you have to be open to tweaking things, right? So for example, let's say you did keto, right, to lose 100 pounds and your macros were X. Now that you're this, be open to changing up your macros. So what I suggest people do is finding what their protein threshold is and their carb threshold is as they start putting on more muscle and they start lifting heavier weights. And for you, you might be able to get away with more protein and more carbs than you used to, and maybe you don't need as much fat, but it's different for each person. So be open to change and be open to experimenting and testing. Hey, maybe before I was eating 70 grams of protein to lose the weight, but maybe I can get away with 100 now because I'm lifting heavier and I have more muscle mass. So that's what I would say. Hopefully that helps out. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious if you noticed any lasting effects from, maybe changes in your metabolism once you did get back to where you were.
Yeah, that's a good question. The only thing that I know of that was lasting was I got a little bit of stretch marks on my love handle area, but not too bad. But honestly, other than the cravings, that's pretty much it. Your body's resilient. My blood work all went back to normal levels, and I think your body can heal itself if you stay consistent with a healthy lifestyle. But yeah, the cravings is the only lasting thing, so please don't bring me Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Girl Scout cookies, the Samoas. Those are disgusting / delicious. Thank you.
Hi, Drew. I really enjoyed your story.
Thank you.
My question is, how did your sleep get affected by the change in your diet?
That's a good question. So like I mentioned, within a month I was snoring, right? And all that visceral fat surrounding my organs made it difficult for me to breathe. And so I was still sleeping in the quantity of 8 hours or so, but my quality of sleep definitely diminished because I remember my ex-wife would get really annoyed with me because I would be taking naps during the day now. I wasn't as helpful with the kids. I wasn't as helpful with the chores. And it really takes a toll on if you don't have quality sleep, it takes a toll on you in other ways that you don't think about.
Do you think you would have been a candidate for sleep apnea if you continued?
Yes, I was on Dr. Drew one time, and he talked about sleep apnea, and I definitely, which I'm glad I only did it for 6 months. Thank you.
I don't speak in public very well, so excuse me.
It's all good.
First and foremost, I want to say congratulations on your sacrifice and thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
I think from an aesthetic look, I think that we all suffer from some kind of body dysmorphia, depending on how heavy we may be. How did you deal with that alone, without the support of your family, when you were by yourself, without the support of your fans and your followers and your clients? When you were alone, how did you stick to that?
That's a great question, and it's evolved over the years. So let me kind of paint a picture for you. Before Fit to Fit, I was really obsessed with how my body looked because I was kind of in that industry of like fitness and wanting to look good and having to look good all the time and like judging myself. After Fit to Fit, it did improve where I wasn't as obsessed. And now that I'm older and I have 2 daughters that are a little bit older, for me, it's really come down to how I talk to myself. And I'll be totally honest with you. And I talk about this openly on social media. For me, the biggest thing that's made a difference is 2 things: meditation, going inwards and kind of self-reflecting, and also positive affirmations. I know it sounds weird, you guys, but that's made the biggest difference. Saying positive words about myself to myself on a consistent basis has really changed the way I view myself. And for me, I know that my daughters are looking at me as well, and I don't want any of that unhealthy, older habits of being so obsessed with body to carry on to them. And I think as young girls, I'm really trying to be very careful about that. So I have to be the example. And so for me, meditation, positive affirmations really made a huge difference in letting go of your ego, of thinking I have to look this way to compete with these people. There's a great book called Ego is the Enemy, and that really changed my perception of how I can see ego getting in the way of even how I see myself. And so those things helped me for sure.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you for your presentation. It was something I anticipated and looked forward to.
Thank you.
While you were talking, I wrote down transformation is emotional and mental. And are there some pearls that you've learned from the people you've worked with? Like non-negotiable food at work has been a transformational thing for me. Are there others that you can readily think of to share?
Yeah, I'll say the biggest thing that makes the biggest difference on the mental and emotional side is having a support system, a community, accountability, right? Because if you're just trying to willpower your way through it and be like, I'm strong, I can do this by myself, you'll realize really quickly that you need the help of other people. Because what a support system does is gives you a balance of love, empathy, letting you know that you're worth it to continue making these healthy lifestyle changes, but also kicking the butt every once in a while, people kind of pushing you with that love and empathy, letting you know that you're worth it to keep fighting for your health. And so you need that support system. So what I mean by that is finding, obviously Weight Watchers was a really great first start for this, of being in person with other people that are going through the same struggles. Nowadays, maybe that's not so practical, but there's, for example, I have 2 private Facebook groups that people can join that is that community. So strangers from all across the world come together with one common goal, and they're there to help give you support, give you inspiration, motivation, but also you get to provide inspiration and motivation to other people, and people are there to check up on you. You post your progress, you post your struggles. It's a safe place to share with those failures that you've had, and realize that there's other people going through this with you. And I think that's really empowering to bring a community together and have that community and that support system to help you with this lifestyle change. And so for me, that makes the biggest difference. There's coaching apps that you can pay for nowadays to have someone keep you accountable. There's even apps where you can pay, put money down, and if you don't reach your goal, they'll take your money and donate it to a charity that you hate. So if that's not motivation, it's real. So if that's not motivation, I don't know what is. So there's all kinds of things, but I think accountability, having a coach, a support system, those things are non-negotiable.
Drew, thank you so much. I followed you when you did your journey, and
Thank
it just stuns me, the sacrifice you made to help so many, not just your clients, but everybody else, to provide that insight. 2 questions for you. Mm-hmm. One, I think it's really interesting that you did the 5 to 6 meals a day when you tried to lose that weight. Mm-hmm. We've been down that journey. It sucks. So you actually had that extra insight by going through what so many people have done and quite frankly failed at. So you were a trainer for 2 years, probably teaching that kind of way of eating, and now you're a trainer teaching keto. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so for sure. I mean, I basically, are you asking specifically like how I coach people now?
Well, just what changes do you see? Are your clients responding better?
Yeah.
Are they, just a little bit more about that would be really helpful.
Yeah, 100%. I think people like the idea of not having to pack their meals, meal prep, bring their Tupperware meals everywhere they go. They got chicken and broccoli in all their containers, and their alarm goes off. It's time to eat. It's so much easier, just listening to your body and going throughout the day and realize, okay, now I'm ready to eat, and then the next meal will be when I get hungry again. But for me, what I've found is like busy parents, entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs. This type of lifestyle is fantastic because you don't have to be a slave to food. Yes. I mean, I remember how much time I had to spend meal prepping, cutting up my vegetables, cooking my food. All right, this will last me 2 or 3 days, then I got to do this again. It works. It still does work for a lot of people, but I think people love the freedom that this lifestyle can give you with having to eat, maybe 2 meals a day, but feeling optimal. Your brain is sharp. You don't feel hangry. There's no crashes during the day. And so for me, I think that's why a lot of people have embraced this, because we're busy. We're a very busy society, and we like convenience. And that's why this conference is so great because you see how keto is becoming more mainstream and it's becoming more convenient. So, hey, you want a cookie? There's a keto cookie. You want a cake? There's a keto cake. Or whatever it is, it's becoming more convenient, more accessible than just, I remember Dom saying he would carry around a stick of butter in a Ziploc bag and some sardines, right? So we've kind of evolved past that. So that's what I love about it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And that's how I feel. I mean, I was had to have the half banana before I'd even think about a workout, and now it's night and day, and it's amazing. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you.